Hey guys, can we just give Steve a little bit more love? I mean, come on. Who in this city is putting together such great events? The podcast is fantastic. He's bringing the community together. He's got dudes like Cody Sperber showing up. We got Austin over there. We got the best lender in town, Noah over here. What a fantastic room. You guys are all great for showing up, and I hope you get some value from today's presentation. Cool, we all ready? Yeah. Awesome. All right, so a little plug. All roads lead to KeyGlee. I know when I say this, it upsets some people. Others find it true. Those who are upset by it, you'll find it true soon too. Don't worry. All right, so let's get in it. Disposition secrets. So a lot of the people in this room, some of you I know, some of you I don't. Some of you that I've never met before, I've done deals with. And I think the reason for that is we've been able to put together a pretty robust disposition model where we're able to generally sell houses for a little bit more money pretty quickly. And for that, a lot of the guys that are in this room have been able to lean on us to help you get your deals sold. So I've been asked many times, what are you guys doing? How does it work? What's your guys' secrets? What do your metrics look like? Today is going to be super analytical. There's going to be a lot of numbers, graphs. I apologize for the nerdiness of it, but the truth is there's a lot of data that goes into being able to build a disposition model. So I'm just going to get into it. If any of you guys fall asleep, it's okay. I won't be upset. Some of this stuff is boring, but try to bear with me. Thanks. So here's just a quick introduction. Obviously, buyer's interest versus time. So we all know that once you have a property under contract and you start marketing it, the longer that we're marketing that property, the less and less and less interest we have from our prospective buyers. So this relationship here is pretty important, especially when you have these long inspection periods and you're trying to maximize your dollars. We start to learn very quickly that your price is super important to minimize the amount of time that you have to market, which will basically decrease the amount of money that you'll actually get for your deal. So pricing your property is super important. Pricing your property correctly. So we've got a couple different types of buyers. We've got your very fast-paced, urgent buyer. We all love this guy. He's the guy like me, usually, you send a house to, send him some pictures, send him the price. He'll let you know if he can buy that house within 5 minutes. You know his word's good for it. He'll close it, get it done, and you don't have to worry about it. That buyer's fantastic. But there's also another type of buyer, and that's our slow-paced, timid buyer. Usually, that guy takes somewhere around 3 days to get to his decision. Now, that doesn't make that buyer any less valuable to us, because this person, they're running their numbers, they're extremely analytical, they're looking at the situation from a very personal point of view. And that doesn't mean that we discount them. It doesn't mean that we don't have properties for them or do business with people like this. It just means that we have to mitigate our selling structure so that we can have properties that are available for the fast-paced guy and the person that takes a little bit more time. So some of the reasons why your slow-paced buyer might take some more time, typically hearing back from a lender, I know if you use Capital Fund 1, your deal will get done very quickly. So if you have a buyer who's waiting for a hard money lender that's taking too long to analyze the deal or give them loan terms, find them better options. Present solutions to them that could potentially help them get to their decision faster. Getting confirmation from an attorney. So I don't know if any of you have dealt with this. There's certain buyers that will have their attorneys rip apart your assignments, rip apart your purchase contracts, and that's okay, because a lot of times it'll show you the gaps in your own paperwork. So if you do have those situations, bear with them, allow them to go through their process, especially if it's one of those properties that's taking you a little bit more time to get through. Give them the luxury of going through that process. If you try to speed them up, it's a red flag. Why don't you want me to have my attorney look over your paperwork? Well, because the deal's too good. Well, if the deal's too good, why are we talking? Right? So allow your people to have a little bit more time when it's necessary so that they can have their attorneys look over the paperwork. And sometimes Access, I know for a lot of the home investors that are in the room, access definitely can be a little bit harder to get. And especially when you're a cash buyer and you're telling your clients there's not going to be a lot of disturbances, there's not going to be a lot of people running through the house. Well, that makes wholesaling the property a little bit harder because you've given them a promise of fewer disruptions, and then all of a sudden we've got a train of families coming through a house. It doesn't really make them feel comfortable with the transaction. But the buyer that needs to view a house, that guy is just not going to buy a house if he can't get in. So trying to shove a property down the throat of a buyer who's not going to buy a house sight unseen is irresponsible. So if you're in that situation and you have a slower paced buyer, just understand their mentality, understand where they are, and treat them accordingly. We've spent a lot of time deciphering when the best days to send our blast is. There was a lot of data points in here, and I just want to quickly show everyone that although there's some big gaps in the graphs, we're really talking about 1 to 2% from day to day. But when your buyer's list is, say, 60,000 strong, 1 or 2% is a lot of people. So after multiple tests from my team, we found that sending a blast out on Sunday is probably the worst thing you could do. Nobody wants to buy a house on Sunday. They're with their families, they're hanging out with their kids, they're recreating. It's just not the appropriate time to try to market a deal. Monday, the best sending day that we possibly have. So if you're trying to find prime real estate for your blast, the Monday morning blast is probably the best one you could get your property on. We find that rate drops to 21.96 on Tuesday. And as you see, as we get through the week, it decreases. Over here, it's where the drinking starts. Still drinking.
It's 11 a.m., right?
Drunk. Buyer. But truthfully, leading towards the weekend is definitely not prime time. Obviously, sales still happen, and we all have to work on Thursday and Friday. But if you've got a property that you might say is a little bit hairy, maybe it's just one of those deals that's going to be a little bit harder to sell, wait till Saturday. You're going to get that jump to get that deal sold. And if you can wait, put it on the Monday morning blast. Best sending times. So I see a lot of you guys that have email lists, send out properties at any time. We did a lot of tests to find out when the best time to sell a house was, and instance count is the number of times, the number of properties sent. So if you look, these are our data points. This is how many houses we sent out at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9, 10, all the way to the evening. So you can see 6 a.m., obviously, people are still kind of getting their day rolling. They're looking through their emails. If you're sending a blast late at night or really early in the morning, just imagine your own usage. How many of you are looking at your emails first thing in the morning and you're inundated with all of the marketing from the night before? So all of the lists that you've not been able to unsubscribe from, all the things you bought on Cyber Monday, all of those marketing pieces, they come overnight. And people are typically just scrolling through their phone and deleting. And you can almost guarantee there's a 50-50 shot your email is going right into the archive section. So please, it's a good thing to refrain from sending an email too early in the morning or too late. 7 a.m., obviously the day's starting to get going, but if you can see, we get our best blast at around 2 o'clock. But as you go down, as you go through the afternoon, it starts to decrease, and then look right there at 1800, 26% open rate. Yeah. That's huge. That's huge. So for everybody who's trying to find the most appropriate time to send their properties, try for the early afternoon or hit that 5 o'clock blast. People are on their way home, or people are just getting home. They're kind of winding down, but they're still in business mode. They're still ready to transact. They're still ready to talk. Bottom line is they're opening the emails at a greater rate. So take note of these times because they're really important. How many of you guys have an email blast that you send out? 1, 2, 3. So a few of you, cool. Understand that when you get your emails, they have to opt in. At just buying a list from somebody or finding someone on Facebook or finding somebody on Craigslist that says that they have a fantastic cash buyers list and then adding that list to your mail account is the fastest way to get banned, the fastest way to go to spam, and the fastest way to become somebody who's just not going to do business. So when you're looking at your opt-ins, we typically check the responder for our opt-ins. So as soon as we identify a cash buyer, we've had some communication, we've asked them, would you like to opt into our cash buyers list? They say yes. They opt in, the first autoresponder, we get about a 40 to 60% response. So that's really good. That means that opt-in was pretty legitimate. That person remembers the conversation, they remember saying they wanted to receive emails from you. So if you get somewhere between 40 to 60% on that first autoresponder, that's pretty good. We also send out a second autoresponder that's about 6 to 8 weeks after the opt-in, and we're getting anywhere between a 30 and 50% response rate. So now you're starting to see their interest level is starting to decrease a little bit, but we're still getting a response. So the people that are responding, the 30 to 50%, those guys that are responding to the second autoresponder email, those are your prime buyers. And then after about 6 months, we get anywhere from a 25 to a 40% response rate. But on average, you're looking at about 14% as a response rate for the opt-ins. The price dropping effect. So I've worked with a lot of you guys in the room, and we have this discourse between us about where to price a property and where I say it's going to sell. So the truth is, when we overprice a house because we're trying to squeeze every last dollar out of it, all we're doing is training our buyers to wait for the price drop. If you're sending out multiple emails within a matter of 1 month or 2 months, and your price is going from $250 to $175, what are you training your buyers to do? Wait. They know you have way too much room in your deals. They know that your assignment fees are out to lunch. All you've done is trained your buyers to just wait you out. So when we have those conversations, and Corey and I have had some heated ones, it's true. I owe a steak for it. But when you're having those moments and you're thinking about where should I price this house, be aware that pricing the property correctly reduces the stigma of that property not being a good deal, or the fact that you may have too much room in the house. How do you introduce a price drop? So I've seen some of my competitors who are going to do a price drop, and we've tested them. We've actually tested these different titles and seen what the response was. The worst one, reduce price. Price drop, limited time cheaper. Come on, like everybody you're doing business with knows this isn't limited time cheaper, right? They get it. They call your bullshit. There's no way this is a limited time cheaper. What's limited time? Your inspection period. Yeah. What's limited time? How long they have to wait to get behind you to take your deal. Yeah. Right? That's what limited time is. So don't say that. Last chance for you, but first chance for the guy who's going to get in behind you and take the deal. So all you're doing is showing your hand to your competitors. We've tested it. New price works very well. Renegotiated price, people understand. They know if a house doesn't sell, you've done your job, whether that be through a retrade or you came to your senses and priced the property correctly. You've renegotiated either with the seller or yourself. So whatever that looks like, let them know, or both. Let them know that it's a renegotiation, and because of that, you've passed a discount off to the buyer. Or another strategy that we use is we say nothing. We say nothing, we switch the order of the pictures. It looks like somewhat of a fresher house. Send it out again with a new price and see how it lands. A lot of times when we're marketing properties for some of the folks in this room, I ask pics, and I get some interesting pictures. And again, I totally appreciate the close-ups of the mold, right? It's really great to see what mold looks like that close. Or the toilet, right? Everybody's seen that. Or the picture of themselves in the bathroom where you can see the dude in the picture, right? I mean, mirrors exist. Unless you're a vampire, you're going to show up in the photo. It's definitely something that people get distracted by when they're looking at the property. So be cognizant of the types of photos you're taking, or if you have an acquisitions manager, have a conversation with them about the photos. And I'm going to actually show you guys a list. First off, take a wide angle shot of the room. If there's mold, if there's a crack in the wall, all of that's going to be visible. But have your acquisitions manager stand in the corner and take a wide angle shot of the room. All of the problems, all of the things that you've asked them to take note of are still there, and they're still visible to the buyer. But what we've created is some depth. We've created depth to the picture. We've created depth to the room. The buyer can look at that and say, I see some potential. This doesn't look like a box or like a coffin, right? So have your acquisitions manager stand in the corner, shoot from the stomach. Yes, shoot from the stomach. I actually, my beautiful wife here, she learned photography, and she showed me when you shoot from hip height, you actually get more depth. You get ceiling height. So you're not taking these pictures where it looks like you've got like a 6-foot ceiling in the house. And especially if you're talking about those properties with additions or where they've got flat roofs, that's super important to have the angles be right, because those rooms can start to look really, really, really small. And that will translate to the way that your buyer is viewing that property. Adjust your brightness. We're not selling houses to vampires. So when you send a picture out of a master bedroom and it's super dark, the buyer is taking these cues. And as much as they'll tell you that they don't pay attention, they don't care, the worse the better, they care. They really care, because they buy on gut. They buy on their feelings. And if you're giving them the feeling of a cramped, dingy, dungeony looking room, that's how they're going to feel. That's going to translate to their ultimate end buyer. So just be aware that brightness counts. And try not to have people in the shot. It's super weird when, I mean, I get it. And you can wait. You can always just say, and this is something that I've said to sellers, but I actually really don't want to have pictures of you in my shot, because it's going to go through our whole office. So do you mind if I just get a shot without you in it? They say yes. They really don't want to be in your picture either. A lot of times they just aren't aware of what's going on, and they're talking to you, and they're excited, and they're a little nervous. They got a stranger in their house. They feel like they're trying to sell you their house for more money. They want to be there and talk it up. But truthfully, if you let them know that, hey, there's going to be a lot of people looking at this picture, can I get you out of it? They're not going to have any issues moving out of the shot. So man up and ask. Yes?
Yeah, I'm working more on this position side like you. The thing here is, normally who is more in the acquisition side is more worried about taking pictures, 70, 50 pictures of the property, molds and all the details. But the guy who's gonna rehab the property, but in order to sell the property in the most price possible, it's like in whole detail, we're looking for like a retail pictures.
They gotta look, absolutely. Of course, we're never trying to be deceptive. You don't want to skim over situations. I mean, I'll give you a quick example. I had an acquisitions manager who went and took pictures of us for a house. He did a fantastic job, but completely left out all of the marijuana plants. True story. Absolute true story. And so we had this situation. When he came back to the office, we actually had a buyer buy it sight unseen. And when the property closed, the weed was gone, but all of the ventilation and stuff was still there. We had to buy the house back because we just, we told them everything was fine. It was a stucco tile. That shouldn't have happened, right? So when I had a conversation with our acquisitions guy and I said, what happened here? Like, did you notice that? And his answer was, yeah, but I thought nobody would buy the house if I took that picture.
More reason to buy it.
But in all honesty, what we really need to do is just have better training. Train our acquisitions guys that pictures matter, what type of pictures to take, and that if there's something glaring, obviously take it. But when we're talking about like the glamour shots, just make them look nice. If anybody wants to take a picture of this slide, feel free. The picture hit list. I'm not going to say all of them because it's a lot of words. So guys, property elevation matters. So how many in this room have bought a wholesale deal from a wholesaler? Cool. So what was the impetus that led you to buy it? Obviously numbers. But when you looked at that house, did you not find something in that house that was endearing to you? Something about that house stood out to you, made you feel like, it's a cute house, I like it, I think I could make something of this. Well, that's because the elevation matters. If we're not taking the full elevation shot, we're really, really limiting our buyers from being able to understand what they're working with. If there's parking, show it all. Have your guys step across the street and take a full picture of the front of the house, because standing on the same side of the street as the house and you're taking that picture with a vertical lens, all that's doing is cutting out your carports, it's cutting out half of your elevation. You're not giving a good representation of what that person's actually buying, so it's super important to make sure that you're showing the parking when there's parking there. We typically find if you can frame a picture a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left, it just creates more depth. It makes the picture look a little bit more professional. If you can't get a picture of the elevation, use the Google Street View. Nobody wants to buy a house with just an address, a price, and your ARV. It's not going to work. So make sure you've got them at least using the Google Street Pick if you have nothing else available to you. Condominium and townhouse units, get in there, actually take pictures of the entire complex, because people care about that. They want to know, what are the amenities? What does it look like? Is there a pool? Is there a fitness center? Are the grounds maintained properly? So if you do buy a property that's in a townhome complex or a condo complex, just take pictures of the whole complex. All it's going to do is just add more information for your prospective buyer. Here's just some examples of what not to do. So this was a house that we bought and sold. The pictures that we were sent, were like this. Now, obviously, this acquisitions manager could have just crossed the road, right? If he had crossed the road, he would have had the full frontal elevation. I would have seen the entire house. Over here to the right, it's just the garage. I mean, I've got no idea what the rest of that house looks like. And the picture on the left, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but there's actually a carport. And especially,
Is that the same house?
yeah,
Are those the same house?
they're not the same house, no. These are just different examples, yeah. So I mean, especially, like, we can all see that's probably in an old Central Phoenix neighborhood. Parking's huge there. Parking's huge. So if your acquisitions manager is not showing the available parking to your prospective buyers, you're limiting the amount of people that are going to be interested in the property. No. That's the day we're sending the house to everybody in our list. They could have bought in 1990. They could have bought, last week. This is everybody. This is absolutely everyone. And if we haven't been able to sell the house around day 5, it's probably not going to work at that price. So that's it, guys. Just wanted to remind everybody, all roads do lead to KeyGlee. So if you have a house that you'd like to sell, we'd like to buy it. If you have a house that you'd like for us to sell, we'd like to sell it. I hope you guys got some information from this. Obviously, we're really heavy on the disposition. That's what we do. We focus on it. We're experts at it. If there's any other questions, I want to open it up to you guys to ask them. Marty.
What day does it go on your app?
It actually gets loaded on our app the minute it gets loaded into Podio. So typically that's 3 to 4 hours before personal outreach starts. Yes, sir.
What platforms, channels of communication do you prefer or do you see more success in?
Good question. So I think for us, texting's been working really well. A lot of people are responsive to text. Email's slow. Email's a slow burn. When you're emailing people back and forth, responses can take half a day to get through. Text and calling, a lot of people are scared to call today. It's really the most personal way to outreach and see if somebody's interested in your property. So yeah, I think texting and calling are probably the best platforms for us.
Do you use Podio for that, or use like a texting app or a texting platform to send out a blast on the text?
We built our own.
You built your own?
Yeah. Yeah. With nerds. Highly paid nerds. Covered. Yes, Elijah.
So as far as the time frame, from the time frame when you send the property to you or to your rent, how fast do you anticipate being in the process versus how fast they anticipate possibly start getting possible bites and offers on it?
Well, that's also a good question. So our processing time, as you know, Elijah and I just did a deal together. So the first one that we did, actually, he sent it to me. I was hopping, so I got it processed really quickly. We got it out, we started working on it, pulled a buyer, got it done. Team took care of it, got the AMD in. They were communicating with Elijah. He was happy, they were happy. Title was communicated with, deal gets done, right? Complete. Second deal Elijah sent me, sat in my inbox for 3 days. Didn't get processed. So that absolutely happens. That absolutely happens. So I encourage you guys, if you're working with anybody at KeyGlee, work with a few of us, because some of us get a little bit busy. But yeah, that process time shouldn't last when it's not me. It should really only last an hour to 2 hours at most. Yes, sir.
Just to say, on the deal that we did, I tried to market that property myself.
Right.
For literally for 2 weeks straight, and I was getting lowball offers, getting crazy numbers, and then Jamil was like, hey, give me a shot, let's do it. So I sent it to him, and literally within about a week and a half, so
It was done,
earning
yeah.
money, everything was in place, so for sure.
Yeah.
He can definitely deliver.
Thank you. Thank you.
How many deals hit day 5? How many sell before day 5 usually? Just to keep sure.
Sure. I'm gonna shoot from the hip on this, but I'm thinking close to 60% will sell before day 3. And once we get to about day 4, we're at about 70, 75. And then the stragglers, the last 25%, they'll either fall off or there'll be the specific buyer that'll come in on day 8, day 9, day 10. There's just some houses that there's a specific buyer for. So there's only a handful of guys that are gonna buy vacant land in South Phoenix. And they're not always looking at their emails. So that guy might take a little bit longer to respond.
And I can shed a little light on that. I mean, we're selling probably 4 or 5 a month at hand minimum right now. I don't know what we're doing
Something like that,
we're
yeah.
doing pretty strong. I would say 80%, 90% probably in the first 3 days.
Yep.
They have someone locked up, ready to go on. I mean, just the 22nd in Tucson today,
Yeah.
was the second day they had it locked up. So I mean,
And it's the shittiest house I've seen.
Why didn't you
that's
sell
what I buy. I buy shitty houses. But
What
yeah.
about my deal in Tucson?
Very nice house, Noah. It might be just too nice for my buyers. Yes, sir.
Some guys, and they're saying that they're noticing, they've had to offer less on houses. Are you seeing that right now as well?
A shift?
Yeah.
I did for 2 weeks around Thanksgiving, I think it's way too early. None of us are economists in here. We're all sort of like, we're watching the news. We're seeing, what the pundits are all saying. There's some that are saying the economy is strong, but let's see what happens as we get there. I mean, obviously, be cautious. Don't get over leveraged. Be smart about your purchases. But if you're actually buying houses at a discounted price, no matter what happens in a correction, you're still okay. If you're buying somewhere around 70% of ARV, which is where I hope most of you guys are if you're wholesaling, even if you have a correction, you didn't buy wrong, right? So I don't think this is a time for us to kind of like stop. It's really going to separate who's meant to be in the business versus who was here for a little bit of time and who's going to disappear. Does that make sense? Danny. Hi.
So a lot of times we sell a property for way more than what we even get. I feel like we have a decent buyer's list, but even you can put a 10 grand on top of it. Are you working with only investors, or do you have like end buyers?
I wouldn't say we have like your end retail buyer, but I definitely say we have a strong buyer pool of folks that aren't looking to just flip. So there's a lot of guys that we have in our inventory, or in our cash buyers list that are really there looking for a solid return in a solid area. It fits their buy box, it fits their criteria, they're going to pull the trigger.
So more rental buyers?
Yes. Yeah. If anybody didn't hear what Noah just said, titling your property great buy and hold means overpriced shitty deal. That's what's being read by your buyers. Buy and hold just means you didn't do your job.
Not work.
Yeah, you were.
I understand this, they only sell it.
Yeah.
Addition play.
Addition plays work, but make sure it's like a neighborhood someone's going to want to do an addition in. Nobody's doing additions in Maryville. They're not. Yes. Yes.
What does a deal with you, if I brought a wholesale deal to you, partnered on?
We would look at it deal by deal. A lot of folks that we've done business with in this room will testify to this. We are here to help you guys win. So if there's a situation that means that we can't split the deal, there's just too much. There was some front end marketing that was crazy. There were some costs that are involved. We'll work on it. We're really truly there to be a service. We want doing business with us not to hurt your bottom line. I had a conversation with Ryan today. He said to me, on 2 houses that we talked about today, he said, you want to know the truth? I'm not going to sell either to you. He said it. I'm not going to sell either to you, but I'm going to make you help me sell them, right? Because he wants to maximize his profits. That's fine. That's cool. So we'll work something out. It's going to make sense for him, and that's what it'll be. So it's going to be on a deal-by-deal basis. We're going to look at it and say, how many buyers do we have for this specific area? How many people do we have looking? What's...
Do you have enough data to know, like,
Absolutely. And we know what our costs are. So we know if a house is going to take us 10 days to sell, it's going to cost us a lot of manpower hours to get that done. So we might not be able to do a flat rate on that kind of thing because we're going to end up losing money. But we'll look at every single deal and honestly do our best to either maximize your price, maximize your profit, but also make it make sense for us to work it. Oh, virtual assistants? No, absolutely not. We have, everybody is either American or Mexican born in our office. Everybody's a paid employee. They're all there to work. They're staff. There's no one virtual. You can touch them, talk to them. Yeah.
They're all millennials.
Yeah, they're all millennials. Yes, sir.
What would you suggest as starting out? I'm kind of pretty new at this. What would you suggest, like training-wise? What would you suggest in general starting out with this?
Just listen to the guys that are doing it ahead of you. You're in great company. I'd say just kind of, look and learn. And every time you fail, just gather all the data you can from it and carry on. Because this isn't a business that's all wins, right? You're going to take losses. We take losses. It's a reality of it. So just be easy on yourself, But if you get up every day and you're going to continue to just do your work, it'll work. Yeah. Elijah.
Do you do any type of sort of like affirmations or morning routines you do just to kind of keep you how you are?
So here's a funny story. When Steve asked me to do this, I literally said to him, can I make the whole room meditate for 20 minutes? Could you imagine how fucked up that would have been in here today? But truthfully, yes. Every morning I wake up and meditate for a half an hour. It's probably, if you're going to ask me and you want me to give you the honest answer of what I attribute any level of grounding, any success that's come my way, I think it comes from being in a still place, just trying to drown out the thoughts that aren't serving me, so that I can connect to a little bit of a better energy in my life. But yeah, I think if you can find some time to just clear it out. Thank you, Steve.
So before we finish, Jamil did this in a private meetup for just a handful of us, and I always kind of wonder, like, how the heck is he selling for more than what I can sell for, and sometimes even what the MLS can sell for.
Yep.
And then seeing this presentation last week helped me a lot. But also, I'm going to ask you, as an open invitation, if someone wants to check out your operation.
It's not an open invitation, but you can ask for an invitation and I might send you one.
Yeah. But
As long as it's not going to be disruptive to the folks in there, because like we're running a business, right? So what I don't want to have is somebody in the office being like, "What are you working on? What are you doing? That's a cool treadmill you're standing on." Like it's, we have to keep the guys working. But if you want to come in and check it out and just see what the culture looks like, absolutely, just send me an email or a text message and we'll figure it out.
But I think the culture, what you're doing here, and the culture is the reason why he's able to sell for so much more than my text blast or whatever. So the other thing before we go, this is all paid for by Magnus. So I want to I personally use an escrow officer, Carrie, at Magnus.
Carry persons.
Yep. We all do. Carry persons. Yep.
So if you guys are wholesaling and you want someone that knows the job, who can handle
Absolutely.
his 80 wholesale deals and my 4,
And my 5. And my 5.
definitely reach out to
amazing.
Carrie.
She's awesome. And talk to Marty. She's a rep for Magnus Title. She's here tonight. Say hi to her. Introduce yourselves. Get her card. She's cool.
All right, one more round of applause for Jamil.
Thanks, guys.